A commentary on Chapter 1 of the Tripura Rahasya, the threshold of inquiry. There is a moment in the life of every genuine seeker when the scaffolding falls away. The practices that once held meaning become hollow. The identity forged in devotion, in discipline, in sacrifice, all of it, begins to feel like another costume in a long line of costumes worn and discarded across a lifetime. This is not failure. This is the beginning. The Tripura Rahasya opens at such a moment. Not with a grand revelation, not with a thunderbolt from the heavens, but with a warrior sage sitting alone on a mountain, his heart heavy with a doubt he can no longer ignore. That doubt, precisely because it is honest, precisely because it will not be placated by any answer it has already received, becomes the door through which he must now pass. Parasurama has done everything. This is essential to understand. He was not a lazy student, nor a half-hearted practitioner. He spent 12 years in his hermitage on Mount Mahendra. 12 years of worship, of meditation, of sacred rites performed without interruption. He pleased the gods. He gained the favor of the Divine Mother herself. By any external measure, he had arrived. And yet, Parasurama to himself on the mountain.
I do not understand. I have spent 12 years in this hermitage, contemplating the Divine Mother, performing my daily tasks, reciting the sacred words. 12 years, and they have passed like a flash of lightning. Yet I understand nothing of how this universe works. Where does it come from? This grand display of worlds, of creatures, of birth and death? Where does it end? How does it continue? I see only that it is constantly changing, never the same from one moment to the next. And yet, to the world, it seems so permanent. People live their whole lives as if this passing show were the only reality. How strange.
He looks at his own life and sees a sequence of selves, the child, the youth, the warrior, the renunciate. Each one real at the time, each one now gone, and he asks the question that cannot be answered by any method, by any practice, by any accumulation of merit.
I look at my own life. As a child, I was one person. As a youth, another. As a warrior, another. Now, as a renunciate, I am someone else entirely. I have changed and changed again. So who am I, really? What is this I that remains through all these changes? I look at others. They work. They strive. They chase after wealth, pleasure, power. They achieve their goals and declare themselves happy. And then, immediately, they begin chasing something else. If happiness truly came from these things, why does it never last?
This is the poverty of accumulation. The seeker gathers spiritual wealth, practices, blessings, states of mind, only to discover that everything gathered is subject to the same law of impermanence that governs the worldly wealth he abandoned. The arrow may be blessed, but it remains in the chest. Parasurama's insight is devastating and liberating.
Think of a man with a terrible stomach pain who briefly enjoys the scent of a flower. The pleasure is real, but the pain remains. Think of a wounded soldier pierced by an arrow, embraced by his beloved. The comfort is real, but the arrow is still in his chest. People live their whole lives like this. The beggar struggles for happiness. The emperor struggles for happiness. Each, upon gaining what he wants, feels blessed. And then, both return to the struggle as if nothing was ever gained. I have been doing the same thing. Like a blind man following the blind, I have walked this path without seeing where it leads. Enough of this folly. I will return to my master. I will learn from him what must be known. I will cross this ocean of doubt in the boat of his wisdom.
What transforms a restless practitioner into a genuine seeker? What turns the endless cycle of effort and disappointment into a path that actually leads somewhere? Parasurama rises from his seat. His mind is clear now, his purpose single. He descends Mount Mahendra and sets out to find his teacher. He travels until he reaches the Gandhamadan mountain. There, in a place of rare beauty and peace, he finds his master. Dattatreya sits in perfect stillness, cross-legged, his presence radiating a peace that seems to fill the entire world. To be near him is to feel the weight of the mind begin to lift. Parasurama bows low, touching the ground before his teacher. He reaches out and takes the master's feet in his hands, pressing them to his head, a gesture of complete surrender, of a student who has come not to argue or to prove anything, but simply to learn. Dattatreya opens his eyes. His face softens with love.
Child, rise. I see you have returned after a long time. Tell me, how are you? Are you in good health?
Master, you are an ocean of mercy. How can anyone drenched in your kindness ever be afflicted by illness, even if fate decrees it? I feel happy in body and mind, refreshed by your kindness. Nothing afflicts me except one thing, the desire to remain in unbroken contact with your holy feet. The very sight of you has made me perfectly happy, but there are doubts in my mind that have lingered for years. With your permission, I would like to ask.
Ask at once, Bhargava. Ask what you so much want to know. I am pleased with your devotion, and I will answer everything.
Parasurama bows again, then takes his seat close to his teacher. He clasps his hands together in respect, and when he speaks, his voice carries the weight of everything he has been holding inside.
Master, once before, I was consumed by fury against the warrior class. 21 times I swept across the land, exterminating them all. My ancestors appeared to me and told me to stop. My wrath finally subsided. Then I heard of Rama, the great incarnation of Vishnu, ruling in Ayodhya. Old pride flared up, and I challenged him. I was defeated, humbled, and allowed to live only because I was a Brahmin. Returning home, crushed by defeat, I began to see the vanity of worldly ways. On my way, I met a sage named Samvarta. He looked like a madman wandering in the forest, but I recognized his greatness. In his presence, I felt a peace I had never known. Every inch of his body radiated a calm that refreshed me just to be near him. I asked him about his state. His answer was clear and sweet, like nectar, like eternal life itself. But I could not fully grasp it. I felt like a beggar maid standing before a queen. I prayed to him, and he directed me to you. Now I have come to your holy feet.
Parasurama's voice trembles slightly as he continues. He is not asking for a new technique, a better method, a more powerful mantra. He is asking for the end of seeking itself.
What Samvarta said is still not clear to me. I have learned the sacred teachings. I have worshipped the Divine Mother. She abides in my heart as you do. But what have I truly gained? I have pleased the gods with ceremonies and offerings. I have performed great deeds. But Samvarta told me that the fruits of all such actions are trivial, and I see now that he was right. Misery is not the absence of happiness. It is limited happiness. As happiness recedes, misery pours in. And beneath it all, there is the fear of death. No amount of action can touch that fear. My practices, even my worship, seem like child's play. The scriptures differ on what is required. The teachers differ on what is true. How can transient practices produce an eternal result? Yet Samvarta, that free sage, seems to have found something that does not come and go. He walks the path of fearlessness like a majestic elephant striding through a forest fire, untouched, unafraid. He is free from all obligation, yet perfectly happy, perfectly established in the eternal. How did he gain that state? What did he tell me that I could not grasp? Master, please explain these things. Rescue me from the jaws of the monster of karma. I have sought shelter at your feet, like a blind man dependent on his friends.
Parasurama falls silent, his hands still clasped, his head bowed. The morning light filters through the trees of the hermitage, casting long shadows across the forest floor. Dattatreya looks at him, and his heart is full of love. He sees that the old warrior has finally become a true seeker, not someone looking for better methods of achieving worldly goals, but someone ready to question the very foundations of existence.
You are fortunate, Bhargava. Your mind is now turned in the right direction. Just as a man sinking in the ocean suddenly finds a boat to rescue him, so your past actions have now placed you on the sacred path of self-realization. The Divine Mother, who abides as the conscious core of every heart, swiftly rescues her devotees from the jaws of death. Know this: as long as a man is afraid of obligation, of duty, of responsibility, of the endless demands of life, he cannot find peace. He is like a man stung by a serpent, the poison of obligation coursing through his veins, clouding his mind, destroying his ability to see clearly.
Dattatreya's voice is gentle, but unflinching. He describes the human condition not with judgment, but with the clarity of one who has seen through it entirely.
The world is full of such people. They are like travelers lost in a forest, starving and confused. They see what looks like fruit, but it is poison. They eat it, suffer, and then in their suffering, they reach for more poison, thinking it will help. They fall into pits, cut themselves on thorns, fight with each other, and eventually find themselves trapped, beaten, drowned, imprisoned. This is the fate of those who chase happiness without ever asking what happiness truly is. But you, Bhargava, have transcended this state. You have begun to investigate. And investigation is the seed from which the great tree of happiness grows.
Dattatreya pauses, letting the words settle.
A man without discrimination is like a frog in a well. He knows nothing of the vast ocean beyond. He is born, lives, and dies in his ignorance. Similarly, men born into this vast universe often live their whole lives without ever asking who they are, why they are here, or what is truly real. They confuse worldly pleasures with happiness and worldly suffering with misery. They run from one to the other, never finding what they seek. But you have begun to question. And that questioning is the first step toward freedom.
Master, what you say is true. A man will surely head for destruction in his ignorance. His salvation lies in investigation. But what is the cause of this investigation? How does it arise? If it is natural, why does not everyone have it? Why do I only now feel it?
Listen, Rama, I will tell you the fundamental cause of salvation. Association with the wise is the root cause of all that is good. Your contact with Samvarta led you to this stage. On being approached, the sages teach the greatest good. Has anyone ever gained anything great without contact with the wise? A man reaps the fruits of his company. I will tell you a story to illustrate this.
Dattatreya's eyes grow distant, as if looking into another time, another world. When he speaks again, his voice carries the cadence of an ancient tale, a story that will not merely inform, but transform.
There was once a king named Muktachyuta. He had 2 sons, Hemachyuta and Manachyuta. One day they went hunting in a deep forest with a great retinue. As they hunted, a terrible storm arose, a tornado that poured down sand and pebbles, shrouding the sky in darkness. The retinue scattered in fear. Hemachyuta, separated from his brother, rode his horse deep into the forest until he came upon a hermitage. There, he saw a maiden whose body shone like gold, bright as a flame of fire. He spoke to her. She welcomed him, offered him fruits and juice, and told him her story. She was Hemaleka, the foster daughter of the great sage Vyagrapada. She'd been found as an abandoned infant and raised by the sage with a mother's care. The prince was instantly smitten. The sage, seeing his condition, blessed the union and gave Hemaleka to him as his wife. They returned to the capital, where the king celebrated their marriage with great festivities. The loving couple passed a happy honeymoon in the palace, in forest retreats, in holiday resorts. But soon Hemachyuta noticed something strange.
Dattatreya's voice softens, drawing Parasurama deeper into the story.
His beloved wife was not as amorous as he was. She seemed always unresponsive, even during the greatest pleasures. When he held her close, she seemed somewhere else. When he spoke, she did not seem to listen. He asked her, "My dear, how is it that you are not as attentive to me as I am to you? Are these pleasures not to your taste? You look indifferent even during the greatest pleasures. How can I be happy if your interest is not awakened?"
The story hangs in the air like a question. The prince, surrounded by every pleasure, sits before his beloved, bewildered by her indifference. And Hemaleka, who knows something he does not, is about to speak. Parasurama leans forward, his doubt momentarily forgotten, drawn into the mystery. What will she tell him? What wisdom does this forest-born maiden possess that will transform him, and eventually, an entire kingdom? That teaching begins in Chapter 2. Thus ends the first chapter of the Tripura Rahasya. The warrior sage who came seeking answers finds instead a story, a mirror held up to his own condition. Hemachyuta, like Parasurama, has pursued what he thought would satisfy him. He has gained the beloved, the kingdom, the pleasures of the world. And yet, something remains untouched. Something in his beloved is not moved by the world's pleasures. And that indifference is not coldness, it is freedom. The teaching of Chapter 1 is simple and devastating. You can do everything right. You can meditate for 12 years. You can please the gods. You can conquer your enemies. You can renounce the world. And still, you will not find peace, because peace is not found in doing. It is found in seeing. Take a quiet moment and reflect. Parasurama sat on a mountain for 12 years. He performed every rite, recited every mantra, worshipped the Divine Mother with unbroken devotion. And in the end, he realized he understood nothing. He had to leave the mountain. He had to return to his teacher. He had to admit, like a blind man dependent on his friends, that he could not find the way alone. This is the humility that opens the door. What about you? What mountain have you been sitting on? What practices have you been performing, hoping they would finally deliver what you seek? What answers have you been clinging to, afraid to admit they no longer satisfy? Chapter 1 of the Tripura Rahasya asks only one question, but it is the only question that matters. Are you ready to stop pretending you already know? If this teaching has touched something in you, let it. Sit with it. Let it unsettle you. Let it open a door you did not know was closed. In the next chapter, Himaleka will speak, and what she says will shatter everything the prince thought he knew about happiness, about love, about the nature of the self. The teaching continues. Thank you for reading. May the doubt that drives you become the door that frees you. May you find, as Parasurama found, that the end of seeking is not the end of anything, but the beginning of everything. Om Shanti. Shanti. Shanti.